All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the James Torrillo Show. I have a very special guest today. Big Seahawks fan, Dylan Wagner, part of the MLWB as well. What's going on, Dylan? How do we feel after and I'm not trying to pour salt in the wound, but what are our original thoughts after Sunday's loss against the Rams?
Well, honestly, offensively, it looked great other than the key factor of Sam Darnold. When you go out there and you throw four picks, doesn't look good for anybody. And they weren't good throws at all, not even catchable by any of our receivers. Directly to defenders, really not something that Sam Darnold that really does. He's been balling out all year, and the concerns start to raise when you go against competitive teams such as the Rams and he flops offensively on that side of the ball. As for our defense, however, very, very, very strong game. Allowed great field position on four interceptions, held the Rams to 21 points. We're bringing a lot of pressure. Defensive secondary was fully healthy, so were our linebackers, so we were ready to go. And it's just something that is going to have to fuel our team if we want to keep advancing. I mean, we're 7-3 now. We have three games coming up against the Titans, Vikings, and Falcons. Very, very, very winnable games for Seattle, and just something that Sam Darnold needs to get back in a rhythm. Defensively, we are on fire. I'm not worried about that, but we're gonna continue to cruise along. And once we get past this little slope, going right to Indianapolis and then hosting the Rams again, I really hope that Sam Darnold can get right back on his ship and sail us to a few more wins.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great all season, and I really don't understand why he's getting so much. I mean, I kind of understand the hate for throwing four picks, but it's one game at the end of the day. Is it an important game that you guys weren't able to win? Yeah, but I don't necessarily look at it as like, oh, Sam Darnold sucks because he threw four picks. Dude had a bad game. Tom Brady had bad games. That doesn't mean Sam Darnold's a bad quarterback. You guys wouldn't be 7-3 without Sam Darnold. You know what I mean? If Geno Smith was still your quarterback and it wasn't Sam Darnold, you wouldn't be 7-3. And I think you would agree with me on that. I think Sam Darnold is definitely an upgrade from Geno Smith. And I think you and I, even when the Seahawks, were a decent team with Geno, right? You and I were never high on Geno Smith. And I think people are finally starting to realize that now that he's with Las Vegas. Um, what are your thoughts on just the quarterback change and, the hate that Darnold has been getting after this week?
Well, like you said, significant upgrade. Problem with Geno Smith is that he flusters once things get incredibly like pressurable in the pocket. You see it every time. Once the DN gets around a tackle, he doesn't know what to do in the pocket. He throws picks out of that. Geno takes a lot of unnecessary sacks where he's able to roll out. He doesn't really use his mobility and shift around his own linemen. So it was something that you're not going to win championship caliber football, playoff caliber football with him in the lineup with a very young Seattle Seahawk team. Um, Quarterback upgrade, I believe, and I'm very significantly happy about it. Darnold's been balling out. He's been showing himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in this game. He throws for a lot of yards. He makes smart decisions in the pocket. He's not known as a mobile guy, but I mean he's got a lot of agility to him. He's able to escape, roll out, and he's did that against the Rams a few times, and parts where he should have got very much so loss of yards by taking a sack. And
Hmm.
kind of reminds you of Russell Wilson before he got a little bit older. I'm not making a comparison there at all.
Right.
I'm just saying it's very, very high trending quarterback change. And what I like about it even more is who we drafted behind him, Jalen Milrow. Having a young quarterback like that sitting 2 years, at least 2 or 3 years behind a veteran like Darnold is just going to give him more of a boost and give him a lot of more NFL intelligence. It's different when you're playing with all the big boys in Alabama. You got arguably best of your position in all of college football, and then you come to the NFL where everything's more dispersed quite evenly.
Yeah. Do you think Jalen Milrow can be the starter in the next 2, 3 years for Seattle?
I do believe he can. He's got very shifty. He's very young. like I said, he had a very good team in Alabama, so it's important that we don't throw guys in the right into the loophole. Like, you throw Jackson Dart, you throw Justin Fields in there, you threw Kurt Benkert in there, Colt McCoy when they were guys, Josh Rosen. And I mean, you see what happened with their careers because they're used to playing at that high mentality in college. However, when they stoop to the NFL level, the game's a lot faster. So they do need to sit back for a little bit and learn the game. And I think Jalen Miller is a very promising young quarterback to do significant damage once he's in the game for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree. I think he will be your starter in the next 2, 3 years unless they decide to make a move. Then maybe they move him around and they get somebody else and, make a trade, kind of like how the Rams did with Stafford or, we weren't happy with Goff. Maybe the Seahawks, if Darnold doesn't play to his best, maybe they'll make a move like that in the future for obviously not for Stafford, but for some other quarterback similar to him, in the next few years. But I think Darnold's been doing a great job. I think it's one bad game. I don't think it's anything to go crazy about. I think people, especially, Seahawks fans, Rams fans, just football fans in general, are just overreacting over one bad game. I'm sure there were games where Tom Brady or Joe Montana threw a bunch of picks. Nobody said they were bad. It was just a bad game. So I'm not comparing Sam Darnold to Tom Brady. I'm just saying, it's a bad game. He'll be okay. And another thing you brought up was that they have 3 very winnable games coming up. You're going to be in attendance in Tennessee. Is that correct? That's awesome. So, are we thinking 3 straight wins here? You're 10-3 after those games?
I mean, it has to be. It has to be. We're running a very, very hot team right now, and a team that wants to win a championship, wants to win the NFC West. You can't stutter step. If you lose to the Rams in a big divisional game, you can't stutter step and lose, unfortunately, to another trap game. We're gonna have to win out, and I believe we can. I believe Darnold's gonna really be on his A game. My projection for him is 363 yards. Wow, kind of struggling between choosing 2 or 3 passing touchdowns, but I think he goes out and lights it up in Tennessee. Atlanta, they don't know what to do with themselves right now. Quarterback situation's a little shaky. Michael Penix Jr. So that's a very winnable game as well. And then finally, the Vikings. Guy that stands out over there is Justin Jefferson. Um, Jefferson stands out. And when you got a secondary like ours has been playing between Josh Jobe, Devin Witherspoon, even Tariq Woolen's been playing a little bit better after we put him off the chopping block again. And our safeties have been doing a very good job. Kata, Kobe Bryant, Julian Love have all been playing their zones honestly better than I've seen him play in the position before this season. So those are 3 extremely winnable games, and I'm gonna say 3-0 right now, not to be biased or anything, but after coming off that loss and playing at the same caliber, and we just blew out 2 lacklusterish teams in the Cardinals and the Commanders, and so I believe we could see the same result going in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, that would put you guys at 10-3. We got Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football this week. So it's a game I think we should win, but it's not a game that's guaranteed it's not a guaranteed victory. I think Tampa Bay has a very strong team. I think they have a very strong offense. They have guys out, but Baker Mayfield's been carrying that offense to put up a solid amount of points, especially we saw that in Buffalo this past week. I think they put up 32 points. So there's a lot of good things coming Tampa Bay's way, but they do run into the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Should be a win, and then after that we have Carolina and Arizona. So we could be 10-3, we could be 11-2. We should be somewhere around there. It's going to come down to our 2 teams for the NFC West, and that's why we have you on today on the show to talk about it. So, if you could give me a percentage on how confident you are the Seahawks win the division at the end of the year, 1 to 100, what would it be?
It's a very, very, very tough question. Obviously, everything rolls in. Can Darnold continue his excellence in play? Can the defense keep on rolling? And honestly, I think we will. We have a genius head coach that's very defensive minded, and we have one of the youngest teams. And finally, they're starting to kind of develop themselves in the better NFL caliber players. And so, like I said, 3-0. We got Indianapolis right after this little stretch before we play the Rams. And Indianapolis is one of those games, win or lose, but compared to the Rams, pretty winnable. Considering Daniel Jones, I'm not too high keen on him. The only guy I really need to worry about over there is Jonathan Taylor. Um, but it's gonna come down to our game. What is that
Is that
week?
game in Seattle?
It's gonna be in Seattle, yes. And so if I had to give you a percentage right now, um, I'm gonna go. Honestly, I'm gonna go 45 only because you guys have to play Tampa, you got to play Detroit, and then you
Yeah.
also have to, come to our house. And the one thing that's scary is the last two times Darnold has played the Rams in between, Minnesota last year in the playoffs were completely flopped. This last up or past week rather, where he didn't look too good at all. It's kind of a concern. I think that's what these three games will do is sort of help him get back into his rhythm and look into more game film after he's played with this exciting young team on a offensively side of the ball and defensively side of the ball compared to the Vikings last year. And so I think he's got his groove, but 45% right now because Rams already beat us once and it's gonna come down to that game.
Yeah, I think that's a fair percentage. I think it's almost 50-50, and with the Rams winning that game on Sunday, I think you have to give the Rams a little bit of a higher percentage. So I think 45% for the Seahawks is fair, and then I'd say, you got a 55% chance for the Rams. I don't like to rule out the 49ers. I mean, I like to cuz, I hate them, but you can't really rule them out completely. I think it's a long shot that they win the division? Absolutely, but it's not impossible. And I think that week 18 matchup, you guys versus San Francisco, is going to be pretty big because if you guys need to win that game to win the division, which I'm sure it's going to come down to that, it depends if San Francisco's still in the mix. Because if San Francisco can get a few wins and they get themselves right back in this mix to win the division, that game, depending on what the Rams do, that could be for the division. So you have no idea what's gonna happen. But, another thing you brought up was, your young talented offense, which has really been around JSN so far. Where do you rank JSN amongst wide receivers right now in the NFL?
Number one.
Really?
One. Yep.
You think he's the best receiver in the NFL?
I think he's the best receiver in the NFL. Last year, with DK Metcalf on the outside, we had Jackson Smith-Njigba in the slot, and all statistics wise, slot wise for receivers ranked number one. Now he's our number one. We got Cooper Kupp in the slot, outside receiver stats wise, number one. He's very versatile at that receiver position, and coming from Ohio State, what over 347 yards in that bowl game? Did he have?
Yeah.
347, 3 touchdowns. Just shows the guy he is. And that Ohio State, wide receiver class, extremely talented, especially who the Rams play this week at Buka. So, they're a very talented group. And I think, JSN was able to develop under DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And stats show he's now the solo possessor of 75 plus yard receiving games in 10 straight games NFL history. Um, Teams double cover him every game. You double cover him, you still can't grab him. He's a very elite route runner. He's got hands of steel. If you saw the one-handed catch he had against the Rams last week, he just everything about him is just dominant in every single category. And that's really hard to say about most receivers in the NFL. Everyone sort of has a little bit of a weakness. But he's number one in my opinion, and that's exactly why.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to argue that when you bring so many stats to the table, Dylan. So I think that's pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, if he's not number one, he's up there, and I think he's proved that so far this season. I think a lot of people would say, oh, it's only been, a little over half a season. You got to see him more. I think we've seen enough of JSN to see how elite he is. I feel the same way about our guy Puka Nakua. Um, Another guy, another receiver on your team, my guy, he's my favorite player, Cooper Kupp. How happy have you been with him as a Seahawk and his production on your offense helping the team win games?
You know, the funny thing about Seattle is everybody kind of gets a little like eerily when you talk about Cooper Kupp's stats so far this season. Cooper Kupp's doing his job. He's in there, you throw him the football, he's catching the football. thing about Seattle is there's weapons all over. You got AJ Barner, who's been balling out in the tight end position from Michigan. You got Barner was a Michigan boy, right? I think he
Yeah,
was.
he was
Yeah,
Michigan.
Barner was. That's what I thought. Got AJ Barner to throw to. You got a rookie Elijah Arroyo, who held the fastest 40 time out of any tight end in college football or the NFL last year. I think he ran 22.46 miles an hour as a tight end. So it's another threat that is able that you have to really get a speedy linebacker to cover, if not a cornerback. JSN, now Rashid Shaheed, our rookie Torrey Horton right now is unfortunately out. But when he was in the lineup, he was another threat because of his speed. So you got a whole, and not to mention running the ball whole lot with Kenneth Walker and Zach Sharp, and they combined 135 yards last game against the Rams. So Cooper Cup, he's an elite receiver. As you throw him the football, he does what he can with it. The ball that bounced in between his arms, and he just gets up and takes it and tries to get a touchdown. It's an incomplete pass, but it shows he's got a very, very veteran mindset. And with such a young team, that is so prominent to have on your offense. So I'm extremely happy with that addition, and I think it's working out quite well.
Yeah, I think obviously if anybody's biased towards Cooper Cup, it's me, but I still think he's a great player and he's obviously like you said that veteran presence that's just absolutely huge to have on a team, especially a younger team like Seattle that a lot of people wrote off in the beginning of the season because they didn't make the playoffs last year. Oh, Sam Darnold only had one fluke year. It doesn't matter. And you guys have proved that you're such a good team and I think Cooper Cup's been a great addition to that as well. Um, if there's one takeaway you can have, besides just the fact that JSN has been so dominant, what's one takeaway you have from the offense that you'd like to improve? And one thing that you think is already just flat out close to perfect, or at least close to perfect as it can get.
Well, I mean that's pretty easy on both ends of the ball. Obviously, Darnold controlling his turnovers is one thing. I mean, he had a pick and two forced fumbles against the Cardinals last time we played him. Um, four interceptions this past game. So it's something for him to work on, but other than the turnovers, he's been super dominant. So I'm not gonna really lean on that as improving. I think Clint Kubiak is gonna 100% get into his head and fix that for him. Um, but honestly, Anthony Bradford, our lineman, he's been getting beat a lot. And that is a very, very, very weak point that we've had on this team by Bradford for now 3 years now. And it's just not working out. And
Right.
it's one of those things where you go out and you sign a guy and put him in the spot and see how he could do. But Bradford's that weakness on offense. And we have a very talented offense, and the most key part about it is it's the lowest offensive payroll in the NFL. We're only paying Sam Darnold, who's been very impressive, $33.3 million a year. And that is crucial. You're paying, Geno Smith $35 million. You're paying Dak, what, 40, 50, including all the other like exemplifiers you have towards the end of his deal. Sam Darnold balling out, and we're the lowest payroll, which allows us to bring the defensive mind of the ball. You got Ernest Jones, stud linebacker. You're gonna have to re-sign Devin Witherspoon eventually. You're gonna have to re-sign Kobe Bryant, Byron Murphy. So I mean, it just leaves a whole lot of extra room to continue to have that force. And now with Jalen Milrow in the mix to have that young team, if you can get that defense under control, you're looking at a team that's going to be very winnable for quite a while. So that's my hot take at it.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I mean, you named a lot of guys on defense that are, well above average players. And Kobe Bryant, he had a great play this past week, forcing that was him that forced the fumble against Puka, right?
It was Kobe Bryant, yes.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like he's been great. Obviously, there's some other guys, but there's two former Rams on your defense, Ernest Jones and Darian Kendrick. I heard in the beginning of the season, Darian Kendrick, I think I heard this from you that he was playing really well, but I didn't see a lot of him this past week. What's been going on with him?
We've been kind of shifting our defense around. a lot of the reason why I didn't see him is because the Rams run a 13 personnel. They bring 3 tight ends in.
Mm,
So you obviously what you do, you bring another safety in the game. That's why Okada was playing so much. You bring another linebacker in the game. You go 4-6 against that because that's what you need to do when you got a team run of 13 personnel. Very, very unique offensive formation that the Rams run. They do very well. That's why you saw so many tight end screens this past Sunday. So we've been kind of also fluctuating who that third corner is between Kendrick, Tariq Woolen. Josh Jobe just got off the injured block, so he's back on. It's just one of those things where they're splitting snaps, so you don't really see too much. Honestly, during this Titans game, I have a bird's eye view of it all, so I can give some more insight on his play there. But when we're flipping up our defensive formations, he can kind of sit and rest for a little bit. So he hasn't really been making too many plays.
yeah. And what about the other former Ram, Ernest Jones? How happy have you been with him and his performance this season?
Tell you what, I'd invite him over and have dinner with him. Uh, Guy's awesome. It's very awesome. He's a force. That's for certain. He brings a ton of pressure. He's what we really lacked in the linebacker position. With Bobby Wagner, who I love, one of the best run stuffing linebackers in NFL history, and Jordan Brooks was the ability to cover the pass at that position. And Ernest Jones just does it all. I mean, he goes in there, he stacks the quarterback whenever we bring him in. We bring him in on the DN, and that offensive or defensive line is really strong, especially when we bring him in on the edges. You got him, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy to worry about. DeMarcus Lawrence now with 2 touchdowns against
Yeah.
the Cards. So very, very extremely happy with his play. And he also, is very good at stripping the running back too and getting tons of tackles for losses. So I have really nothing negative to say about Ernest Jones except that I'm happy he's wearing a blue and neon green uniform.
Yeah, sounds good. I wasn't happy with how things ended with him. I always thought he was a very good player, and I was very, I was kind of ticked off that they didn't want to pay him at the end of last year. Um, I think we ended up. Did we trade him straight to you guys, or did we trade him somewhere else first?
I think he was on Miami, and then we traded him in a deal with Jordan Brooks to come to us.
Mm.
Uh,
Oh, you know what? He was on Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, he went to Miami after that, though. He went from Tennessee
Okay.
to Miami, and then we traded Jordan Brooks in a pick or something, and we got him. Because I remember he was pretty good with Tennessee, but they were in that rebuilding phase, so they shopped him off, and then 2 weeks later, we were able to acquire.
Yeah, that's a great pickup for you guys. And speaking of this defense and how well they've been playing, where do you rank Seattle's defense amongst all defenses in the NFL? Would you put them number one?
Stats wise, yes. Morally, I'm going number two. Reasoning is because Philly. Philly
Mm,
defense is just tremendous, and you got every single piece there. You got Kelly Ringo balling out, Quentin Mitchell balling out at very excessively at their positions at defensive line. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, studs, absolute studs there, and so you got a lot of top ballers defensively on that lineup. And every time you play them, you saw they held Detroit to 9 points on prime time. So that's very, very, very hard to do. Against a very good offense like they are. You got a lot of weapons. In running game, Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jared Goff, who's been a horse for them. Throwing the ball to Monroe St. Brown. So you got a whole ton of weapons over there, and Philly stuffed them up. So they're one of the teams that you want to come out of the NFC, you're gonna have to go beat them. So that's my number two defense, Seattle, but Philly's number one, and honestly, I'm happy staying number two. Our stats don't lie. We're very productive and we're making the right calls defensively. So hopefully we can keep going at it and stay a force for the dark side is their name on that defensive line now. They decided to
yeah.
name themselves. So not quite the Legion of Boom, but hopefully it can be the same amount of pressuring against offenses and the same amount of scare that the Legion of Boom once was.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you who scares you out of the NFC? But you kinda answered that. You said Philly has the number 1 defense. Would that be the same answer? Would you say if anybody scares you out of the NFC, it's the Eagles? Yeah, I mean, we know that, your family is a bunch of Eagles fans. You're alone when you say you're a Seattle fan, so I'm sure you know you hear a lot about the Eagles as well too. So, if you had to give me a little Super Bowl prediction, who comes out of the NFC, who comes out of the AFC, who faces off in Super Bowl 60? Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow. Yeah. How how confident are you if the Seahawks do end up being a wild card team, let's say they're the 5 seed or the 6 seed, probably 5 seed if they don't win the division. How confident would you be in them getting out of the NFC as a wild card team? Mhm. They'd probably have to play either Tampa or Chicago as of right now. It was. Yeah. I think both conferences are wide open. I think that's fair to say. There's a lot of great teams, but there's also a lot of teams that we didn't necessarily expect to be in the position that they're in. I figured the Patriots would be a little bit better because they have such an easy schedule, but I didn't think they'd be this good. I didn't think they'd be 9-2 and in first place. I didn't think Denver would be 9-2. I thought they'd be a playoff team, but I didn't think they'd be 3.5 games ahead of Kansas City for the division. Uh, the Bears, the Bears are in first place. I didn't think the Bears would be good at all. I thought they were a 7 or an 8 win team this year. They've gotten much better. They already have 7 wins. They're 7-3 in first place in the NFC North. Um, One team is that I thought would be good that people didn't was Seattle. And and I'm not saying that because you're on here. I'm saying that because I didn't understand why people thought the Seahawks wouldn't be good when they were 10-7 last year with Geno Smith and they got a better quarterback. Wouldn't you think they'd just get better? For some reason, people didn't think that, but they've proven that they're a contender. As a Rams fan, I can say that Seattle is the team. You know, obviously the Eagles have had our number the last few years, so I can't say that I'm not a little nervous when it comes to Eagles versus Rams, especially because I'm in Eagles territory in New Jersey. But if there's another team that scares me, I'd have to say Seattle because I think that our toughest game of the year is going to be in Seattle against you guys, and I think the division is going to come down to that because if you guys take that game, it's going to be a 50-50 shot for the division because we're going to have split. So before we wrap things up, Dylan, any last thoughts on the Seahawks? Any takes you can give me before we wrap it up? Yeah. Yeah, you guys are definitely scary when your QB1 is playing his best ball. Unfortunately, he wasn't Sunday, but I think he will against Tennessee. I would expect a big game out of him. And yeah, have fun at the Seahawks Titans game. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking football with me. You're always welcome here on the James Trillo show. For everybody watching, whether you're on TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, wherever you are, please follow or subscribe to whatever channel you're watching on right now. It would be greatly appreciated so you can watch every episode of The James Trillo Show. And it will also be uploaded to YouTube afterwards so you can rewatch it and go back, find any clips or anything that you want to find if you want to go back and watch it in case you joined halfway through or whatever. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.